Imagine being a humanitarian, caring so much about people that you take your hard-earned money to buy water and hand it out to your neighbors. Now imagine living in a community that is so heartless that the homeowners association actually fines you for this kind gesture. Well, that's what happened to an Arizona man named David Martin, who lives in a neighborhood called Canyon Trails in the city of Goodyear. David has a unique business where he makes custom shoes, and he does it working right out of his garage. You may have heard stories about HOAs that fine people for running businesses out of their home, but that's not the concern here. David, being the good Samaritan he is, set up a free water stand in his driveway during the pandemic. He would invite all the neighbors by including even one neighbor that was handicapped.
I think it's fantastic.
I figured what better way to be an asset to the community than cold water.
But what started as a way to be a good neighbor turned into what would become an ongoing neighborhood ritual. People would pop on by on their way to work, on their way home from work, before school, after school. It gained traction, and just about everyone in the neighborhood would stop by for their free bottle of water. It was such a hit that even when the world went back to normalcy after the pandemic, David kept it up with people stopping by his home all the time. What made this even more special is that David was paying for the water out of his own pocket with a little help from some of his neighbors. The neighborhood clearly saw what he was doing and appreciated it because he would get random packs of water left on his doorstep when he would wake up sometimes.
I get about 30 or 40 flats of water. Sometimes I open the front door and there's 2 flats. I don't know who dropped them off. It's just a surprise and it's fun.
But being a good person while also uniting the neighborhood wasn't good for everyone. Sometimes a group of people can't have nice things because there is always going to be power-strung people, or even downright miserable people that spoil the fun. In this case, it's the homeowners association. Either somebody from the neighborhood reported David or an overzealous employee of the management company called First Service Residential reported him. Here's the thing though. The HOA can't just fine David for giving out free water. At least they can't put that part in writing. They have to find some code violation and frame what he is doing within the written rules of the HOA. It's kind of like Congress when they will add an addendum in a bill that has nothing to do with the context of the actual bill. The Martins were fined $50 for storing items in plain view. They did have the option to appeal the fine, which they would have to either put in writing or spend their valued time going to pointless HOA board meetings. But David didn't do that because he found it so outrageous. He completely ignored the fine and kept handing out water, because why should he stop being a friendly neighbor? Right? The HOA didn't stop there, though. The fines kept coming, and over the following 3 months, the fines increased to $100. If David Martin wanted to take it even further than appealing the fines with the HOA, he can go to the Department of Real Estate in Arizona, which has a homeowners association dispute process. But that process costs $500 just to file a complaint, and it will likely take many months or even years to resolve the issue. That defeats the purpose.
I'm sorry. I don't care that it's blue and gray and my house is tan and brown. It's a water cooler with cold water for the community.
But apparently this is not the first time this has been an issue. Around the time that David started handing out the water, the HOA contacted him, and it was deemed around that time that he was doing nothing wrong. He wasn't fined back then, and the issue was completely dropped. But years later it became an issue again.
I just don't understand what fight they have, why they want to fight, because I've made it very, very clear I'm not stepping away, I'm not putting the cooler away.
David became condescending towards the HOA. He even wrote on the cooler, "Please grab a water," and then in small letters underneath, "Even you, HOA." Or maybe he is just that good of a person that he would really give the employees from the management company or the HOA president water. David Martin does not care though. He says that even if the fines keep coming, he is going to keep giving out free water. The news about the HOA fining David spread like wildfire around the neighborhood, so much so that the news was called to investigate. Nobody likes bad publicity, and especially not HOAs. Eventually, the HOA caved and responded to the media, but of course, they had an attorney talk on their behalf, and this is what the official response from the HOA was. The association does not object to a resident providing water bottles within the community. However, The community's rules do not allow a resident to advertise water bottle distribution from a portable ice chest located next to their garage that is visible from neighboring property. The HOA also followed up by saying, "The board has diligently worked with the resident so as to allow him to continue making water bottles available and has simply requested that the portable ice chest be screened from view." Well, guess what? David Martin stuck to his guns, and a few months later, he still has the water cooler out, and he is still refusing to pay the fines.
I'm not paying your fines.
But the fines did stop accumulating.
In September, we didn't see an additional fine. So they've stopped fining us, but then they sent the letters.
He kept getting the letters, though, and the HOA insisted that it's not the water that is the issue. It's that they want him to hide the cooler. David Martin proved himself to be a fighter and resisted at every turn. He thinks it's downright silly to hide the cooler and defeats the purpose.
Thank you. I appreciate the suggestion, but it's never going to work. How will anybody know it's there and or for them?
The HOA's attorney then sent David a 13-page letter with everything they want him to change and even suggested that he hire an attorney. While David wasn't backing down, he did acknowledge that may be necessary.
If they file suit, I'm going to have to hire a lawyer. The only problem with that is the financial of it.
If the HOA truly is interested in getting David to hide the cooler and not just looking to flex their muscles, they should consider going about it a different way, as you can tell the sarcasm in the tone of David's voice.
I appreciate you taking the time and spending the money to write this and draft this up and send it 3 different ways.
The pressure of the media didn't dissuade the HOA from continuing to pursue their power trip on getting David Martin to do what they want him to do. It will be interesting to see how this one ends. Have you ever had any issues with your HOA? If so, leave us a comment and tell us all about it. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this.